My design career didn't really take off until I did this one thing. Want to know what it is? It's finding my niche. Now, there's a lot of graphic designers out there who are scared to niche down for fear of limiting themselves or being overlooked for opportunities. But I'm here to tell you that niching down doesn't have to be as scary or as limiting as you might think. In fact, it wasn't until I started to niche down that I began to be seen as an expert in my field who could command higher rates and get better quality clients. And hey, if you're new here, I'm Eric, a brand and key art designer based in New York City. And I create videos to give you a behind-the-scenes look of what it's like working as a freelance graphic designer in the entertainment industry. In this video, I'll be explaining when it makes sense to niche down versus being a generalist, why niching down makes sense, and where to even start so that you can find your niche without feeling like you're being stuck in a box. Last year, we made the video, How to Make Your Graphic Design Portfolio Stand Out. And in the comments, Stephanie Parker 1625 asked a really great question. She asked, what would you recommend for a junior designer? I have 2 to 3 years of experience now. I was told in college my portfolio should be diverse, showcasing a range of skills across different project types and aesthetics. What type of work, what industry are a little tough for me since I'm interested in a lot. Branding, packaging, book design, UX, UI. I'm not yet niched down. It's a great question. And when I was doing graphic design coaching, this is an area where I would get a lot of pushback from my clients because they felt like niching down oftentimes is either too restricting or confusing, and they didn't know where to start. But I don't think it has to be that way. Here's why. Being a generalist allows you to try a lot of different things and see what areas in graphic design you gravitate towards the most. And then as you move forward and start to progress, it does become beneficial to have a niche. By definition, a niche is a specific segment of the market for a particular type of product or service. The truth is that most of the time, people are willing to pay more for someone who specializes in a specific area. This is because a client feels that a specialist will understand their unique problem and as an expert, help them solve it. I want to give you an example here to kind of put this in context. Let's say you go to a diner that serves all kinds of food. Maybe they have hamburgers, pasta, salads, wraps, you name it, literally everything. On top of that, they probably have a menu that's 20 pages long. But here's the thing, you expect a diner to be relatively cheap. What happens when you go to a 5-star restaurant where the chef has lived and studied in Italy and has literally dedicated their life to serving the best Italian dishes possible? People are going to pay more for it. I think where we tend to get caught in the weeds as graphic designers is restricting our niche, limiting it too much, and then being scared to pivot if it doesn't work out. For example, I've said many times on this very channel that I am a key art and branding designer who works in television and film. So key art and branding are my specialty, and entertainment is my niche. Now that statement alone could sound a little bit restricting, but it actually gives me a lot of opportunity and variety. Within TV and film alone, there's documentaries, there's scripted and unscripted, and all different genres of movies. Taking it one step further, entertainment doesn't have to be limited to television and film. It can also extend to things like audiobooks, podcasts, music, right? Like things like album covers, concerts and festivals, even book covers. Sports is another large segment of the entertainment space, and I learned a lot about entertainment branding for sports during the time that I worked for World Wrestling Entertainment and Major League Baseball. And while I may focus on key art, I can also do logo design, I can do branding, I can do motion design, and I can art direct other designers. I can also do other types of work like resizing and production, but that's not really the work that I want to do, so I don't advertise that on my portfolio. My portfolio is strictly to help me attract the work that I want to be doing more of. Taking this approach has allowed me to have a specialization and a niche that prevents me from feeling too restricted. I think it's all about starting somewhere and picking that path and going down it. Because there's a point in many graphic designers' careers where it's beneficial to find that specialization, to find that industry or niche and go deeper. But remember, if you do it and you don't like it or it doesn't work out, you can always pivot and apply those skills to another niche or industry. Let's back up a bit. Here's how I went from being a generalist to specializing. When I was fresh out of college, literally all I knew was that I needed money and I needed experience. When I finally started working, My first 3 jobs were all in completely different industries. During the time I was in college, I worked at a law firm in Boston. After that, I went to work for an art licensing company. And then from there, I started working for an event marketing company as a generalist graphic designer. I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of design projects. I was able to see what I loved to do and what I hated doing. So while my skills were forming and I was figuring this stuff out, my portfolio was all over the place. So at the time, I only really had a surface level understanding of things like logo design, packaging, print, photography, and drawing. My portfolio was just essentially a hodgepodge of stuff that I was exploring. It had no focus, no direction, and there was nothing in it that really helped to set me apart as a graphic designer. I was also extremely underpaid. By my 3rd job, I was only making around $30,000 a year. So around the 3 or 4 year mark after college, I started to notice that a lot of job descriptions for generalist designers were in that $35,000 to $45,000 range. But in comparison, a lot of the jobs for sports designers and brand designers were considerably higher salaries and rates. At this point, as a junior designer, I had to figure out 2 things. Number 1, what skills do I actually like to use and want to continue to develop? There's only so many hours in the day and I could only study so much. But at this point, I did know that I wanted to be the one doing the hands-on design and not just resizing artwork that someone else has created. And I also came to the realization that I just can't be good at everything because there are only so many hours in the day. So what are those 3 to 5 things that I really want to focus on? Now, this doesn't have to be hard. I don't want to overcomplicate this. So if you're not sure where to start, sometimes it can be more beneficial to think about what you don't want to do and then see what's left. Now, the second thing I had to ask myself is what was really important to me in the long run? Now, this requires a little more introspection, but it's allowed to change and evolve over time. Think about what you want your career or your business to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. By asking myself these 2 important things as a junior designer, I was able to determine that I wanted A, to have a sustainable career as a graphic designer, and B, I wanted to be working on projects that I was excited about that would allow me to showcase and improve on the skills that I actually liked using. So if you start dialing in on what is the type of work that you want to do, you can start to find your niche. This puts you in the driver's seat of your career. I discovered that I really enjoyed photo manipulation and photo compositing. So at night when I got home from work, I would spend hours doing tutorials. I was reading Advanced Photoshop Magazine, Computer Arts, Imagine FX, and following along with those tutorials to learn and improve my skills. But doing this also allowed me to see that I really enjoyed logo design and branding. I started to create self-initiated projects to practice my skills and apply what I learned. Soon, I was finding some ways to use these skills at my job. My skill set expanded because I dove deeper into these areas and continued to practice and apply them. So what I could do got better, more refined, and more nuanced, and it allowed me to build a creative process. I began to remove some of those old college projects from my portfolio. Instead, I was adding the projects that showcase the types of skills that I wanted to be using and the types of projects that I wanted to be working on, even though I wasn't doing it yet. Now, this was a game changer because a lot of graphic designers have a hard time editing their work down and focusing on advertising the types of work that they want to do more of. And while all this was happening, I was starting to research industry pay. I knew that I wanted to make more than $35,000 to $45,000 a year, but at the time, small businesses and agencies didn't pay that well, and event marketing also just didn't really have that big of a budget. So I started by making a list of industries I wanted to work in that paid more. And to me, corporate advertising and entertainment felt more aligned. I gravitated more towards entertainment because I loved television, film, video games, and music. And it felt like an area that I could stay excited about because I could literally talk about these things for hours. It offered so much possibility and variety. Now, I could have gotten into entertainment and realized that I hated it or that I couldn't make a good wage. And in fact, the wage part did happen. I would interview with agencies and oftentimes realize that I wouldn't make as much money as I could make working directly with the brand. So instead, I chose to focus on being an in-house designer. Well, initially, those first few years, I was doing a lot of that more production-heavy work where I was maybe designing email blasts and banners, resizing artwork, and focusing on prepping files for print. This led me to doing related types of work, like photo retouching, photo compositing, logo design, and in some cases, even some motion design. Over time, I showed that I could create images that looked like key art, the brand would trust me, and then they would start to give me opportunities to do that type of work. These are all the things I was interested in before, but now I had a way to show those skills and a thread to connect them. After I would work with an entertainment company for a while, I would start to get a little bit bored of just working for the same brand, because a lot of times they have strict brand guidelines and a very specific look and feel, but I wanted to be able to push that and have a little bit more variety. This prompted me to look for other jobs in entertainment. I saw all of the different ways that I could pivot within my niche. I want to take a little detour here because Chris Do actually talks about something called the halo bias, and this is something that I really vibe with. The halo bias is when people see you as an expert in one thing, they automatically assume that you will be equally as good in other areas. In my case, this is exactly what happened. When I was working for SYFY, my manager was having a hard time working with one of the agencies because they weren't really listening to him or taking his direction. So one day I went into his office and I said, I think I can help. And because I had started to build up some trust, he gave me an opportunity to make the revisions and the updates to not one, but several graphics packages for shows like Dream Door, Deadly Class, and Happy Season 2. Now, doing this allowed me not only to just showcase my After Effects and motion skills, but it helped to make me more marketable as a graphic designer who could do both print and motion design. This means that if you can achieve credibility and recognition in one area, it may open up other opportunities for you to showcase your experience and work on other types of related projects. Let's talk about marketing yourself and getting hired. Wherever you are in your graphic design career, try to keep your portfolio updated. That reminds me, I really need to update my portfolio. So if you're a junior designer, try to identify the projects that you are the most proud of. This can be as little as 3 or 4 projects, but no more than 10. Really start thinking about how you can showcase and market those projects to your ideal client. This can be anything from having some process shots to doing full-blown case studies to help give those potential clients an idea of what it would be like to work with you. It's our job to help hiring managers and directors understand what it is that we do and how we can help solve their problems. So if we want to work with a particular client or a company, but our portfolio doesn't show exactly that type of work, then in those cases, I would highly recommend creating a separate PDF of work samples that are specific to that job or position. For example, I wanted to work with a podcast company, but because I haven't updated my portfolio in a little while, I didn't have those work samples on my website yet. So instead, what I did was put together a nice little presentation that showcased that type of work, and I shared it with them. This allowed me to showcase what I could do specifically for that type of client within the entertainment space. So finding your niche doesn't have to be so hard. Think about the things that you love to do. Think about the things that you could talk to somebody about for hours, and then find a way to connect it to design. At the end of the day, it's all about making it clear what type of work you want to do and who you want to do it for. Then you can always pivot or expand into a new area. So I hope that this video helped to shed some light on how to niche down as a graphic designer. If you want to know my tips for how to be a successful graphic designer in 2024, then check out this video next. All right, creative, thanks so much for watching. Keep designing, and we'll see you in the next one.